Take it away, Dave and Becky.
Oh, welcome to
Dave
and Mecky's Shiny Side Out on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com and revolution.radio. It is home to fresh, unadulterated ideas and conversations in the chat room and a place to get your merch. This is show number 514.
correct.
410 and 500. That's a big number. You can catch us on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on the Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. Larson show, that's okay. So you can go into the archive, which is for free, gratis, nix. No money up front, no money after, no cash on delivery. You can just use it. And her guest today was Renee Colston. And they discussed sentient animals and their connection to their guardians on a spiritual level. That's awesome. That's really, really interesting, actually, because that's the thing, right? Anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. Right? So you can, in fact, go to the archives for nothing. So just join the club. Maybe you want to become a patron on Patreon. Or maybe you just want to donate any money that you can to the station, because this is Listener from the Radio. Before we start broadcasting in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast. And for Dave?
It's the Darkinjar.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, it is the Darak people. And we'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Thank you very much. Yeah, Dave, hey, that's a really interesting topic that Solaris had there. That's really interesting. Sentient animals, connection to guardians on a spiritual level, spirit guardians, maybe, spirit animals, etc., etc. But certainly, I think some countries have actually recognized certain animals as having sentience, like self-awareness, like dolphins, whales, I think even the bonobo chimpanzees, gorillas, I think, and a few others have been recognized as being up there and having self-awareness, which is really interesting. Right?
Yeah.
But personally, I believe the most sentient of all the other creatures is the slime mold.
In fact, you're right.
Go on.
You're absolutely right.
I would, yeah. Go on.
Because I watched a complete documentary on slime mold.
Oh.
And while it is made up of, thousands of individuals, they act as one.
Yes. It's a fascinating creature. I mean, look, mushrooms are sort of 1 foot in the animal kingdom, 1 foot in the plant kingdom, kind of thing, right? Not really belonging to either fully. And the slime mold, even more interestingly, actually it moves. It moves around.
Yep, it uproots itself and gets around.
Yeah, it does, and then it grows a mushroom, like structure to spawn, as it were. So
this is when it can't find any more food.
Yeah.
Because I've got to go further than I can walk.
There you go. It's
a preservation of resources. It's absolutely insane.
Fascinating creature, that. And much older than any of us. I can tell you. A lot longer and much better adapted to survival, pretty much anyway. Except, of course, for the ever-present tardigrade. The tardigrade, if you're looking for a creature that will survive anything, anywhere, and will be here when we either, have a heat death of the universe or the ultimate freeze, whatever comes.
Even if the Earth blows up, it'll still be around.
It'll be fine. Thank you very much.
And it could be one of those items which are, part of panspermia.
Completely. I mean, if we ever, not that we haven't, but in this iteration here, if we make it to other solar systems, and tardigrades inadvertently are brought along on purpose, they will spread quite nicely elsewhere as well.
And they're also, you can quantum entangle them.
Yes, we spoke about that last week, Dave.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
I know.
I mean, this is it's a small creature, okay, but it's a living, multicellular organism. Quantum entangled, what?
Yeah, when it's in stasis, you can quantum entangle it. And I think that is truly amazing.
That's nuts.
So we could be
in stasis, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, like, don't look up.
So, why? Oops. But wouldn't it, I mean, this is the thing, though. I mean, this theory is sort of related when we talk about entanglement, because you have this instantaneous information transfer. That's really what entanglement means. And there's a theory emerging in physics circles in recent times. And I mean, literally days ago, where there's this theory put forward where, well, this is going to be hard to swallow, but there's only one electron in the universe. Right?
And all of them are copies?
No. It's just one electron, and this electron happens to move about in time quite a bit, apparently. So
a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay.
So electrons there are a lot of electrons in the universe, and this new theory which says, well, they're all the same. It's just we don't perceive space in the way it actually exists, right? You might remember the fish tank example we gave, right? You got a fish tank and there's a fish in it, for argument's sake, and you got 1,000 cameras looking at that fish, and each camera has a monitor attached to it, and each shows the fish from a different angle, different vantage point. Funny thing though is the person that looks at the monitor, IAS, looks at 1,000 different monitors and thinks, oh, there's 1,000 fish here. And funny enough, whenever they all move together at the same time. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, they're entangled back here.
That's what happened, right? But what if it's the same fish, the same electron, the same photon, whatever, right? I mean, that's stretching it. But I think people are really struggling, Dave, to make sense of the universe, right? I can only imagine what life must have been like before Einstein. A nice Newtonian mechanical universe. Everything made sense. When something falls to the ground, it usually hits it. And if I push my coffee cup off my table, then there's cause and effect, right? That's out the window, by the way. And it must have been a really nice and certain kind of time. The British Empire and all that, right? People really knew their place in the world. And I don't mean this only half sarcastically, really. I'm not being flippant overly here, but I do believe that people were probably a lot more comfortable and a lot more secure, I guess, in their world, in their place in the world.
Well,
it was,
to be honest, we had it all worked out, right?
Yeah, my head is full. There's nothing else left to learn. We have reached the pinnacle of knowledge. I mean, just to have that certainty, that would feel so nice. I almost can't feel anger towards the people that are keeping knowledge away from us or are debunking as a compulsion, right? Yes. The armchair specialist. I almost can't feel anger at them because I get it. I understand it. It's more. It feels. I don't know. You feel secure. You feel
things to change. What
the
concept is change businesses.
Yeah.
I want it to stay the way I like it.
Yeah.
This armchair is comfortable.
It is a good, comfortable armchair. It's the best armchair I can possibly imagine having.
I don't want a world where this armchair no longer fits.
Yes.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, of course, that's not the world, right? And we are constantly bombarded with change, and I think this rate of change has stepped up. I think.
Again.
Yeah, and has been stepping out for a good 50 years, right? It's just been getting it's been accelerating, and I understand why there's so much uncertainty and uproar in the world. It's simply because people need to find something they can cling to, and sometimes that's a person, like a dictator, right? Like a strong man or woman. They say, I can, yes, I'll go with that, or maybe it's a theory. Evolution, yeah, I go with that. Or it's God. Yeah, God is good. That trumps it all. Thank you very much. I get it. I understand. And in fact, you know what? In times of crisis, Dave, people always polarize.
That's right.
And you can see it in the States today. You can see it in many other countries. Just after World War I, right, there was a massive polarization between the left and the right. So communism versus, I guess, nationalism in a way. That all happened because it was a time of massive upheaval, massive crisis. We are there now. We're here now, Dave. I mean, climate change. Have you seen the fires in the States
Yeah,
in winter?
I know.
What?
Have you seen the tornadoes everywhere,
I
including
know.
Florida?
I know. It's a tornado season. I thought it wasn't.
No. And China had an F3,
Yes.
and I'm wow, that's they never used to have any, and now they're up to 3, which is pretty good. They're good for them.
Yeah.
That's well, they're in the ballpark now. The Tongan volcano was declared to be a VEI 5. Pinatubo was 7. If you go back, all that time, and Mount St. Helens was a 3. It puts it on a scale. Yeah.
Holy
And
moly.
the ash cloud and the SO2, sulfur dioxide, has moved over Australia and is kind of, where the rain band is now. It's all getting a bit bubbly between the Northern Territory and Northern Queensland all the way down to Adelaide. That's where the SO2 cloud has arrived at.
Wow.
So that means acid rain from the SO2. So Tonga isn't as bad off as it was estimated to have been, which is lucky to have been able to. The airport was cleaned up and we landed, and the world has pulled together and helping out, which is great. But it is historically the largest one in living memory, and it's the most captured. We've got so many satellites looking in different wavelengths, all seeing it. The shockwave went right around the world, and you could see it in the barometric pressure as the wave went across the US.
Yeah.
That's something else.
And the island, I mean,
there's almost nothing left of it.
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit of an island, and then after the explosion, it's just I guess
2 little tiny blips.
Yeah, on the edges. That's right.
Yeah.
The rest is just completely obliterated.
So remember, you can't compress water.
Mm-hmm.
So the explosion occurred below water, below the sea level, and as it blew up, and instead of being able to go outwards, it was directed like a hose nozzle by the force of the water on the sides, and it couldn't go outwards, so it just went straight up, and that's why it reached 37 kilometers high.
That's actually quite astounding. It's almost
stratosphere.
Yeah, you can almost launch.
Yeah, that's right. So the next thing is, Simpsons. There's someone, a geologist gets wind of a volcano going to go off, so they sit the capsule on top of the volcano with the guys in it. Is this going to work? Sure it will. Yes, of course. Don't worry about it. In fact, 10,000 Gs later, they're liquid inside the capsule. The flat earthers should go in and be. Okay, see if you make it to Leo. If you make it to Leo, is the Earth flat? No. Text me when you bump into the what's it called? The Fermi.
Firmament. Yeah, the firmament.
Yeah, bump into the glass. Yeah.
Which, the people believed it. The stars are hung.
They're just glued on. Yeah. So, that was pretty bad. The earthquake, but the following the volcanic eruption. But it just made me think about, that's living memory, but the way things are going, Mackie, with the escalation of all of these, or what's the new normal?
Well, that's it.
Are we going to see a super volcano go off?
Well,
dwarfs it,
it is a worrying. It's a worrying trend. So we've seen a lot of activity, not just along the Rim of Fire in the Pacific, not just along there, but in Europe, right, and elsewhere. We've seen a lot of volcanic activity. Now we've seen a super eruption, right? and completely. Now, first of all, completely without warning, right? And secondly, completely unprecedented. Scientists are saying they have never seen anything like it, right? And I never like, I don't like to hear, oh, I've never seen anything like it. Like when you go to the doctor, right? You go to the doctor, you sit down at the doctor's office, and then all of a sudden, he's calling all his colleagues in.
Yeah, that's right.
Students coming in as well, pointing at you. That's where we are here.
He uses the end of his pipe,
right,
to prod it. Do you remember that?
Like, ooh, yeah. Never seen anything like it. And that's, but see, this without being, facetious here, that's where we are with a lot of things. And it is worrying because we can, like I said before, and I will say it again, when things go sideways, they go sideways very, very fast. The people of Tonga had no warning whatsoever. I mean, lucky it seems that the damage against living beings was minimal, from what we can tell. I mean, some people were affected, but I mean, by some stroke of luck, not very many people were killed. I mean, one guy was actually swept out to sea, and he traveled some crazy distance on the ocean for a week.
Wow.
He was on the ocean for a week, and then he drifted into the main Tongan island. Lucky for him, I guess. So it's lucky. But imagine, I mean, what does it take for the other volcanoes to be set off, and why are they being set off right now? What is triggering this, right? I maintain, Dave, there are a couple of things. Number one, historically, the continued testing of nuclear devices underground, right? I mean, if you keep knocking something continuously, right? And there were many, many tests like that. There has to be some effect on the Earth's crust, number one. Number two, because we are experiencing such a great melting of ice. So our ice
pressure on the sphere
is shifting.
It is shifting from the poles as it's losing mass. Yeah.
And it hadn't done this for millennia, not like now. So all of a sudden, when you take the pressure off something, something moves in its place, but as it moves in its place, that displaced mass and is filled by something else from somewhere else.
Maybe we thought incorrectly from a geological point of view that the outward middle, the bulge in the middle, was caused by a centrifugal force, possibly by the ice.
Maybe
squashing from the top and the bottom.
Maybe that's. I would look. Just looking at it, logically, it's certainly a contributing factor. It has to be a contributing factor.
That's right.
Right.
So as you relieve the pressure, is it?
The bulge is flattening, right?
Well, the bulge is flattening, and therefore, you're causing some liquid below to in the asthenosphere to move and displace, and it's got to cause tectonic movements. Well, volcanism just has to.
Well, it's a closed system. Any action will have some kind of effect on the system, right? It's not hypothetical. It's not academic. This is now a real life system we're talking about.
It's macrophysics, so it's easy. It's
completely. And then look, we don't know what's going on with the sun and the moon. Other things are happening as well, right? I mean, there's a lot of activity on the sun. How's that affecting the Earth? Who knows? We don't really know.
Did you know that I was looking at some data that had the solar cycles and when they were more significant, and each of because humans have actually been recording the solar cycles for a lot longer than we had space travel, for instance. So going back to, when was it, like the 1700s? We had a book of solar cycles.
Yeah,
people been monitoring it. And there have been correlation between that and the large volcanism events.
Is that right?
Yeah, and the large volcanism has also there's a one-to-one correlation with climate cooling, because the large events put material into the stratosphere, which lowers the temp.
Of course.
When we had no summer in the northern hemisphere, that was Pinatubo.
Yes.
So this one won't cause a reduction in summer this year, and it's unlikely to cross to the northern hemisphere. It might give the southern hemisphere a bit of cooling for the next 2 years, but only by about 0.3 on average. That's degrees Celsius.
No, absolutely.
But there's something significant, as there is a correlation between the solar maximums and volcanism.
So the released radiation, the particles that are released by the sun, especially in
and there's gravitational waves which we're so not across yet.
Not completely, but all of these effects. I mean, we can't feel it necessarily, right? Because maybe we're just too small an entity, each of us. The Earth is quite large, and I know people have a problem with that whole scale thing. But if enough particles, radiation, or gravitational waves are absorbed by the Earth, then you would think that there should be some kind of effect on the Earth, right? Now, to be clear though, the Moon has a direct effect. Now, if the Moon has an effect on the Earth, right? Just the gravity of the Moon, then the Sun must have a much greater effect on the Earth than anything that
Yeah, that's right.
And the Moon is, I mean, well, I can't really make a general statement that it's a dead object, because it might not be, but it's a less active object than the Sun.
Yeah.
The Sun is a very active object, right? So again, the effect of the Sun on the Earth must be truly spectacular, and we probably don't fully understand it, completely. We just don't have that insight, and maybe we don't even know what to look for, Dave. That's the thing.
Well, there's other things as well. So on a very regular basis, within our own Milky Way galaxy, there are collisions with black holes, and we have supernova, supermassive stars blowing up and things like that, and gravitational waves going everywhere. But they also happen on like you're cooking popcorn. That there is a rhythm or a frequency to it, and that frequency is also may also have an effect, because only recently we found the gravitational waves from the two black holes, and it was kind of by coincidence when the two black holes collided with each other, and we could see it. It was in another galaxy, and we saw it and felt
That's nuts. That's just nuts.
So, there's got to be something. There has to be other vectors, and it can't simply be, it just happenstance. Yeah, it just happens. How does it happen? Or we don't know. That's a good answer, sure. It's not the best answer. It means you've not looked at anything. So how much research did you do? None. But we're kind of sure. Well, who is we? Oh, me. So just you, are sure that it's nothing. Absolutely.
Don't look up.
No, it didn't test well. I still love that, Mom. Yeah, it's classic. But look, it's sad. I have to say, it's sad that we're living in this. Remember this punctuated equilibrium? Remember steady state versus punctuated equilibrium?
I do.
One of my favorites.
Look, I think it's the more viable theory, to be honest with you.
Well, when nothing happens, you don't have a clue about what punctuated equilibrium would look like until you start to experience it, and you go, oh.
That makes sense all of a sudden.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Maybe we just explain to our listeners very quickly. So, steady state argues that nothing really changes over over long periods of time. It changes over long periods of time.
And what is the topic? Geologic changes.
Oh, any. So steady state and punctuated equilibrium, you can apply to virtually any area of
biology,
sciences.
geology.
Yeah, biology, geology, anything, right? So steady state says that things happen over long periods of time, right? And then you've got a punctuated equilibrium, and then you also have catastrophism, which are closely related but not the same. So punctuated equilibrium says that yes, over long stretches of time, nothing happens or happens very, very slowly, but then all of a sudden, and that's where catastrophism comes in, something triggers level events already on this planet. Something happens very quickly and very swiftly, and it also seems to trigger our genetic material. Or that's the theory anyway, right? So rather than having slow development over many, many millions of years with tiny little changes, which we never see in the fossil record, by the way. We never found those. This theory argues that these changes happen all at once, or of a sudden, as it were, with your biology, whatever it might be, reacting to outside influences, catastrophic outside influences, right? That's right. And so yeah, I'm a proponent of that, my friend.
So am I. So Mickey, what's the term for a creature that doesn't require the opposite sex?
Hermaphroditic?
No, the other one.
Okay, then you also have androgynous. No, not that.
Yeah, there's another one. Where you give birth, but you didn't require another partner. That's the word I'm looking for. That one. The one that's
oh.
locked away.
Oh God, we just spoke about that recently.
I know, and I was trying to find that story.
Because
there was a mammal.
Yes.
That surprised us all. Can you remember which one it was?
I can't remember. I remember the bird, but I can't remember the mammal.
It wasn't a platypus, was it?
No.
Something recently gave birth, and it was on its own in captivity.
Yeah, like a virgin birth. That's correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Asexual reproduction.
Asexual. That's right.
Yeah, parthenogenesis. That's correct.
Asexual reproduction. I'm sure it was a mammal. It surprised everyone.
Yeah, let me see. Recent pathogenesis. Let me see. Recent asexual. I know it was definitely a bird.
Right.
It was definitely a bird. I remember that. But let me see if we had a mammal. Recent asexual. Here we go. Blah blah blah. Yeah, condors. There were California condors. That was the one we spoke about. That happened in October last year. And because it's just a crazy thing is it was only the mother's DNA in the bird that hatched.
That's right.
Right, which was crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Asexual reproduction discovered in California.
Lizards do it. Yeah, that's the most recent, my friend. The condor.
So there must be something to do with the thought of the animal triggering something. So kangaroos, when there's a lack of feed, choose apparently not to. They can freeze an embryo in situ in its growth process and freeze it where it is. It doesn't progress any further until food returns. And that's a by choice thing that they can do apparently. So you can imagine, times are good, it's great, replicate. Oh, times are bad, but I'm still gonna get birth. And then you can just kind of stop it. So remember all of those things we've spoken about, Mickey. This is like the series of the aggregation of all of our thoughts. But that's the next hour. Imagine if humans had an ability like that, which we've not needed yet.
There's no reason. So let's be clear here, right? I mean, biology is in nature. Nature is not an entity, but nature is what we live in. Nature is astounding. And I absolutely believe that we have the capacity or capability to asexually reproduce. I reckon 100% we have that, because fundamentally our sexual biology is not that different across any vertebrates. Right? I mean, it's ovaries, it's eggs, it's sperm, etc., etc. So if a condor can do it,
yeah, that's right.
There's really no. I mean, look, I know I'm going to get a lot of hate from biologists here, etc. I know there's a difference between condors and humans, and I know there's a difference in DNA. But as far as we're related, our DNA is very, very close. Certainly compared to species that exist on other planets. But my point is that if the biological possibility exists for a species, then in theory, there's really no reason why it shouldn't exist in another species as well. So we've spoken about this when it comes to immortality, other things as well. Maybe some organisms are more complex. But if you look at a condor and a human being, right? Now, yes, they're slightly different sizes, but the condor isn't, that much smaller. I mean, it's lighter and all that, but it's not a lot less complex than a human being. The organs are all pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the brain size varies. I get it. Again, I understand the difference between a condor and a human, but my point is they are of comparable biological complexity. Right? If they've got the chemical processes, biological processes, electrical processes, etc., and the sexual biology is very, very similar. So, can it happen for humans? I think absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I wanted to ask a few questions because I don't know. I just have to. I got the feeling, Mackie, not everyone's on the same page, and so
that makes two of us.
So I want to ask, and Mackie, you're allowed to answer the questions, but even though they are rhetorical, you could be doing this on behalf of the listeners, if you know what
I will. Listeners, I am on your behalf.
That's you can have OAM at the end of your Order of Australian Medal, and you can have on behalf. Okay, so do we live in a democracy?
That's like a test joke question, right?
All right. If I ask it another way, would you think that people would believe they lived in a democracy?
Yes, people would believe that because they don't understand. Now, this is for Australia, but I think that goes for most political systems out there, right? I mean, Australia is specifically bad, as is America. In America, you've got the college system and a whole bunch of stuff. But in America, what you have is a preferential voting system. And you're not voting for the person, but the party, which is even worse. So the preferential voting system, it makes it, I think it's the most undemocratic practice. It's a practice that we can think of. So let's say you want to vote for someone, Dave, right? Yeah, I'm voting for X, Y, and Z. Here we go. And then there are two big parties, and they say, look, hey, they talk to the smaller, parties or the even the independents and saying, hey, look, you know that most of the votes will go to us, right? You're
never going to win.
You're never going to win. So therefore, if someone does vote for you, why don't you throw those votes our way, and then we cut you in on a deal? We'll take some of your agenda points on, etc., whatever, and so you at least get somewhat of a say. Otherwise, we might get a hung parliament. Oh, the shocking specter of a hung parliament. Now, a hung parliament. Again, I'm going to get hate for that maybe. That for the political parties, that's probably the worst scenario, a hung parliament, especially if you win,
it's
right?
Like talking to the audience, it's death.
Yeah, but for us, it would be the best thing because in a hung parliament you have to make compromises. You actually have to negotiate with people to get so everybody gets heard. All of a sudden, the independent members of parliament, they have a voice. They all of a sudden, oh yeah, no, hey, how about this issue here? How about this issue over there? So a hung parliament is a good thing, but right now what happens? No, it doesn't happen. So what happens is these preferential votes. So let's say you vote for party XYZ and they give all their votes for Labour, for example, and therefore Labour wins your seat. Because it might have been too close between Labour and Liberals, but now the preferential votes, they come into yours and you do win the seat, fair and square. The independent guy never had a chance, or girl for that matter. So the answer is we don't have a democracy. So what's democracy anyway, right? So democracy, in its simplest and purest form, is a person, a vote, right? That's what it should be: a person, a vote. That has almost never happened in the history of the human race, and it certainly didn't happen when democracy was first thought to have been invented in Greece, where only men over the age of 30 that had served in the military and owned land could vote.
It's under the aristocracy, right?
Yeah. Oh, so, what do you mean?
What do you say?
So, Dave, I would say no.
No, that's right. And that it also comes with its own problem of representative government. But I'll get to that. So, I mean, do you think that people would say that they voted?
How do you mean? Like,
well, they actually are active participants in democracy by voting when elections come up.
Well, they vote. I mean, I guess
in Australia we have
to.
Well, we have to, even though they're not supposed to know that you didn't, but
right,
right, because you could simply have just fudged the donkey vote, well, not donkey voter. You could have written "go to hell" on the voting form instead of ticking in boxes, or tick them incorrectly, and not understood the instructions because they're quite complicated for someone who isn't has no intention of doing it correctly. It's quite an easy out. Well, do you think that, because in America though it's optional, you can or you don't have to.
See, the thing is this: ever since we've moved away, or even before that, but even more so now, so we used to have a paper ballot most of the time in the olden days, right? I mean, everybody had a piece of paper they voted with. I mean, was voter fraud possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, boxes got lost, or an additional 10 boxes, were added to the count, or whatever. But these days, there was a paper trail per se, and there was an exit poll, which sort of quizzed people how they voted, and again you have to assume that people are honest, and there was usually a huge margin of difference between an exit poll and the actual vote outcome.
Yeah.
Usually, I mean, that was just astounding, right? But again, it's not really that accurate. But be that as it may, these days though, right? Not yet in Australia, but certainly in America and other countries, you've got an electronic voting system. You know what that means? There's absolutely no paper trail, none. It's a closed system that if you manage to hack into it, especially in the debug machines, right? If you manage to hack into it, there'll be no trail of that. I mean, remember the Simpsons episode where Homer's trying to vote for Dole?
That's right. He's just chasing it around.
Yeah, and he keeps moving on the screen. Bush, you want to vote for Bush? And it was funny. But the truth is that we don't know. I mean, you can put anything you want into cyber. Like once you go into the virtual world, unless you're a native, you know what you're doing. It's very difficult to prove any fraud, especially if there's no auditing system set up, no audit log, nothing, right?
Yeah, if you're a technophobe, then you would barely be able to operate the equipment, right?
Yeah.
So, but given like in Australia, yeah, sure, it's as compulsory as it's ever going to be. But in the US, it's optional. And so when I say, do you vote? I remember having conversations with people after, in the last 2 US elections. And some people were very, very emotionally connected to either the person who won or lost. And I asked them, these were voting capable Americans. And in some cases, they said no.
Yeah.
But they were still against the outcome.
Yeah, but you can't have it both ways. I mean, it's okay to protest and all that, but if you choose not to vote, and again, is your vote still meaningful? That's beside the point, but you should participate in the process. Or you start changing the process. If you don't like it, right? Because the thing is this.
Vote for change.
Vote for change or be the change. That sounds terribly corporate.
Yeah,
be the change. Embrace the change.
I talked to corporate. I sent some faxes. I ate a bagel.
My civic duty is done. Good corporate citizen. No, but because the thing is this. Now, 200 years ago, people decided, hey, this whole king thing doesn't work for us, and they decided to have a revolution. And they did. It was called, the revolution, the War of Independence, etc., etc. Why and how? That's nobody really is taught why it happened and how it happened. You taught a story, and we might talk about this one day and how it actually all happened and how it hangs together. But trust me, you don't know the actual circumstances of why the Revolutionary Wars came about, unless you're really a specialized historian, and even then, chances are that you only know half the story. But that's neither here nor there. So we are now in a system, all of us, So our system is about 120 odd years old. It's, federation was 1901 for Australia. We're also the first nation to allow women to vote, which is great. Imagine that, Australia, the first nation to allow women to vote. And women have only been voting for 120 years.
Mm-hmm.
What? Democracy, yay!
Yay, democracy.
Right, yeah, right. Up with us, up with people. But
we're closer to a democracy now.
And further away.
And further, yeah, it's like magnetic poles.
I reckon there was this golden period. Really, I mean this in the between the wars
back to the Stone Age.
To the Stone Age. No, but between the wars, between World War I and World War II, and then maybe just after World War II as well, for maybe 10, 15, 20 years, there was a bit of a golden period there. No, but so is it something that we just have to accept? No, it isn't, because these systems that we are living in now, they weren't there, prior to the establishment. So maybe it's time to establish new systems. Maybe it's time to revisit what it means to have a UN, for example, or to have a parliament, or how people are interacting. I mean, do we need big government? Some countries might be better served with small government, local government, right? Regional government. Look, I think what we have today is not working, Dave.
Yeah, because that lends itself to my next question.
Go on.
Does your government make decisions that you voted for? That's a trick question.
No. The only country in the world, to my knowledge, that has anything resembling that kind of approach is Switzerland.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
In Switzerland, most of the important decisions that the Swiss make is taken to a plebiscite, meaning to a decision by the people.
That's right.
And the Swiss, for 500 years, ever since they formed their very particular form of government, it's called an Eidgenossenschaft, which is sort of it's really hard to understand. It's a sworn camaraderie, if I were pressed for translation, or an oath of camaraderie. They haven't been to war for 500 years. The Swiss haven't had a single war, and they have been looking after their own. They have been making decisions as a people, right? And there isn't anybody else on the planet, no other nation or state or other entity that I can think of that has been, in the same boat, Dave.
Is it Greenland or Norway or Sweden or someone who has a council?
If anyone, it would definitely be the Scandinavian countries.
Yeah, that's right. So I think they've got geothermal hot water supplied by the town to keep their houses from freezing over like ice cubes.
And it was in fact Iceland that I think they sent all the bankers to jail, for example, right? And it's also the Scandinavian countries that use the country's wealth, like mining royalties, for example, for their citizens.
Yeah, that's right.
In those countries, you don't pay for healthcare, you don't pay for transport or schooling or anything like that.
Nice.
Right? Yeah, I know. Look, in Australia, we are probably amongst the largest miners in the world. We've got the largest uranium deposits, massive copper and iron, coal, gas, and
bauxite for aluminium.
Yeah, and most of that wealth goes into private pockets, but not even into private Australian pockets. Yeah, multinationals. So, whoosh! Rio Tinto is a Spanish company, and BHP's headquarters are in Singapore for tax reasons.
Of course they are.
So
Ireland was full.
Ireland was very full. I can't. No more tax-free money for us. I'm just throwing up in my mouth a little bit now. I'm so full.
You sure you don't want any money? Oh, I couldn't take it anymore.
Another bite. God, just one more bite.
Wafer thin.
Priceless. But yeah, so no.
The answer's no. That's right. That was to the. Are you aware of any laws that are in? Oh, sorry. So, are you aware of any new laws that are in place by the new government that you've got?
So yes, this would be the answer for us here in Australia, and I think yes. for most, and most of these laws would have been passed in the middle of the night without anyone reading them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Rushed through, as it were. Joe Biden wishes that happened to his infrastructure bill. I'm sure.
Yes, I know.
That didn't happen. But so the answer is yes. And the thing is this. Now I'm one of those sad sacks that listens to Parliament.
I watch it when I can.
And again, when you can, because it's on at working hours, of course.
That's right.
But there's no real debate, and certainly it's never taken to the people per se, because Parliament thinks, no, we are the representatives, we represent the people, so we make all decisions. So none of these laws are ever socialized with the people. The only thing, and this was because it was such a controversial thing and nobody wanted to put their name to it, was gay marriage proposal.
That's right.
Remember that?
Certainly not the sitting government.
Oh.
They chose to ditch it to a plebiscite.
Yeah.
In which then it was so overwhelmingly positive towards support of gay marriage that they went, oh, but plebiscite isn't it's not written in gold, right?
Yeah.
But we'll still decide, right? We're getting crazy. Then they got a lot of backlash for not wanting to do what the people wanted. And that's that representative government thing.
See, but that
never existed, right?
But who do they? Okay, so let's be very clear for a second.
Yeah.
Who do they represent? They represent. So like let's take Scotty, like Scotty for marketing. And let's pick on him because he's our prime minister. So what is Scotty? Scotty is a Hillsong Christian, right? He is, and that's a very important element of his being. So it's very hard for him to go against any biblical Christian values. I mean, fair enough. I mean, that's okay. I mean, as long as he makes that clear, right? And he is making that clear. But he doesn't represent anyone, in my opinion, that doesn't share his common belief.
So Mackie, just for the people to understand, music festivals here in Australia, because of the virus, have been cancelled, right? Because you can't sing, not allowed to sing out loud. You can't go to nightclubs with lots of music and dance.
You can sing in your head. That's okay.
You can sing in your head. Use your inside voice. And there was a Hillsong camp where they had a band and they had singing, and they got a little rap over the knuckles. I just don't. It's kind of okay, but you shouldn't have done it. Whereas there's music festivals with tens of thousands of people disappointed because they couldn't have them, and the insurance cost for the people running those was so high that they just couldn't possibly do it. And so here's the one set of rules. So to answer the question that you mentioned earlier, Mackie, which was so who are they representing? The party itself, and all of those personalities within the party, and their sponsors.
Correct. The lobbyists, the people that have enough money to positively, and by positively in their own interest, influence parties. So there's a reason we're not signing up to all these climate change treaties, etc., right? And the key reason is that Scotty for marketing and the entire Liberal Party are, actually over their eyeballs in the back pockets of the. Big coal, big gas, big oil,
and farming. All that methane. Methane is a much more destructive gas than carbon dioxide.
Yeah.
So what we need to do, we need to have long tubes and corks with the tube stuck into it, like you do in science when you're collecting, say, hydrogen from, you're doing electrolysis on water and you're splitting it into hydrogen and oxygen. So to be able to collect it, you need to pipe it into something. So you put a bung into the top of the test tube. Well, that's let's just picture that as the methane producing what's the kindest word, bovine, and you stuck it in there, and then the tube collects all the methane. See, and then we can burn it for a fuel or something.
Hooray!
Yeah, don't just let it go off into the atmosphere, because that's going to be recyclable. Carbon, or no, not really carbon. Yeah, if you burn it, that's recyclable carbon. What am I talking about? Yes, it is. right?
Look,
Yay! Right? It's a little unpleasant, sure, right?
Not for me.
No, not for me. You could collect all the hot air that comes from Parliament. That could be a good thing.
Oh, don't
There's
get
a
me
lot of
started
that.
on that. That's a lot of fun. I like it.
Let's green the planet. You see them all with these tubes. So that was one of the questions. So, but did you know, Mackie? Because I asked the question about the new laws. Did you know that it's your personal responsibility to keep up to date with all the new laws? Because ignorance is not an excuse.
You're correct. Ignorance of the law is not offense in court. So
but they don't tell you that the new laws are out.
Yeah, and there's some really interesting and obscure laws as well. I mean, most things we go, okay, well, that makes sense.
Every 3 weeks, I'm supposed to get a pig.
Yeah, there's that, right? But yeah, so if it is up to you. But the question then becomes, how, Dave, would you inform yourself? How?
I don't know.
Right? It's actually a little crazy if you think about it.
So, annually, I do keep up to date with the traffic laws, and that's all I've got.
But that's why the lawyers are in such an position of power.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's their job to keep up to date.
You're a talking guy.
Well, for me, what I think about lawyers, but it's a dangerous situation we're in. We are almost completely at the mercy of our system, because we've allowed the system to, be as all powerful as it is. If you're caught in the system, and that's a crazy thing, Dave. The system is like an independent machine. It'll roll right over you.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Volcano. I'm sorry. It's like there was this crazy thing with the family that was held detention, and the daughter was sick and had to go to somewhere, and in Australia, it was recently, right? And they were taken out of the community. And they've been and the children actually born in Australia, but they were still sent into detention. And it's just insane, because the machine is in motion, and there's there's nothing we can do. We know that we can. The Minister for Immigration, he revoked Djokovic's visa. He has got ultimate power. So
that's right.
The ministerial power.
And it went everywhere and cost a fortune and ended up just supporting what he said in the first place.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that was a bad decision. What I'm saying to you is the minister has got massive discretionary powers, but he didn't use them for that family, because that's not in the party's interest.
That's true. Mackie, I just have to say something because it's the end, and I've
sure.
I love the leader.
No, I love the leader first. Also, I love all of the leaders, and also frequently. Love you long time, leader. Long time, love you long time.
I truly love the leader.
Well, you'd think so, but we all know that true love only comes from the Mackie.
I love the AI then. The AI, and the AI loves me. I'm gonna let it put me to sleep at night now. I'm gonna spoon with the AI.
Spoon with the AI.
That's what I do.
I will fork with the AI.
Oh, dear.
That'll learn you.
Oh dear. That worked well. So this has been David Mackey's Shiny Side Out. First hour is almost over. Episode 514. Stay tuned for the second hour. We're talking about the hypothesis. Part 14.